Okay, good morning and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for everyone for joining us on this beautiful Sunday morning as we are in the week of Pessah. Everybody getting ready for this beautiful holiday coming up. Friday night this year, we will be sitting around the table with our friends and family and revisiting the Exodus, revisiting Yetziat Mizrahi. Of course, it's not enough to remember what happened. We have a special obligation this year on this night to actually relive the Exodus. Every day of the year, we're supposed to remember Mitzrayim. Like the Pasuk says, Lema'at tizkor et yom tzatcha me'eretz Mitzrayim kol yemei chayecha. You have to remember the Egypt Exodus every day. But on this day, it's a special experience where it's not only knowledge, it's not only about knowing that we left. We have to feel like we left. Chayav Adam lerot et atzmo ki'ilu hu yatsa. You have to feel, I have to feel, every one of us has to feel like we were there and like we left. There's so much to talk about over here. But I would like to begin today's class and touch on a very important point, and that is the idea that we have in the Urhatz. Okay, let's go to the Urhatz, the second step of the Seder. We know Kadesh, Kiddush, and then Urhatz, we wash our hands. Now, usually we wash our hands when we're about to eat bread. Why are we washing our hands over here in the second step? You would say, well, we're going to eat bread, which is true, but we're not going to eat bread right now. We're going to eat bread in another hour. We have still a few steps till the bread. We have the magid. We're going to eat the celery in the salt water or in the vinegar. We have the cutting of the matzah in half. And then we're going to eat bread. So the washing that we're doing now is not for the bread later. Matter of fact, the bread that we're going to have later is going to have its own washing. Right before the step of motzi matzah, we're going to have the step called rohtzah. What's rohtzah? Rohtzah is washing your hands with a bracha of al netilat yadayim. And if that's the case, I'm going to wash anyways later on. So then why am I washing my hands now for step number 2? I'm not going to have bread. It's not for the bread. Why are we washing our hands? So actually it goes back to an interesting halacha that used to exist in the time of the temple of the Beit HaMikdash. In the times of the Beit HaMikdash, we had an interesting halacha, and that is that anytime you were to dip a food item into one of 7 liquids, you would need to wash your hands. Okay? So what does that mean? Let's say you're going to have Oreo, and you're going to dip an Oreo in milk. Well, milk is one of the 7 liquids. The 7 are, you ready? Quick halacha. 7 liquids. Yayin, wine. The dvash, honey. Shemen, oil. Halav, milk. Tal, dew. Dam, blood. Sounds weird, right? Okay. Mem, mayim, water. These 7 liquids, if you're ever dipping a food in one of these 7 liquids, you would need to wash your hands. Okay, this was a special, interesting halacha that was for the times of the Beit HaMikdash. It was to prevent certain tum'ah, whatever the reason was. However, this is a halacha that even till today, some opinions hold you should still do it. And what that means is that today, right now, on a regular day of the week, if you're going to dip an Oreo in milk, you would have to wash your hands. If you're going to dip, your cookie in coffee, you have to wash your hands. This is a halacha that's brought down in the Shulchan Aruch. Now today, since it's a machloket, if you need to do it or you don't need to do it, so we do it without a beracha. That means wash your hands without a beracha, to play it safe. And that's interestingly what we do right now. In the Seder, on the second step, we're washing our hands without a beracha. Why are we washing without a beracha? Because of the third step. The third step is karpas, where we take krefis, the celery, we dip it in vinegar or salt water. Both of them, whether it's vinegar, which is wine, or salt water, which is water, both of them are 2 out of the 7 liquids. So since you're dipping a food item into one of the 7 liquids, you have to wash your hands. Now what's very interesting over here is that although there's a mahaloket, although usually there's a debate whether or not one needs to wash today when we live in 2022. Whether or not you need to do this. But everybody agrees on the Seder, you need to do it. Meaning even the opinions that would hold that today you don't have to wash your hands when you're dipping into the 7 liquids. Because you only had to do it in the temple times, but not today. But even those opinions agree that on the Seder, you have to. Why? What is so unique about Leil HaSeder? And Rabbi Bernstein explains over here, because the whole point, says the Netziv, he quotes over here, that the Seder night, one of the main themes of Leil HaSeder is Zecher LaMikdash. The whole point of tonight is to remember the temple. And if that is the case, there's no better way to do that than right in the beginning by washing our hands, just like we would have in the times of the Beit HaMikdash. So even though maybe today there's a machloket, maybe you don't need to 364 days a year, but one day a year where the whole point of this night is Zecher LaMikdash, where we're also remembering the Beit HaMikdash. By the way, what's the proof that we have Zecher LaMikdash tonight on Pessah? Where else do we do tonight Zecher LaMikdash? Give it a couple of seconds if you want to try to write in your answers. Where else on Leil HaSeder do we remember the temple? 2 times I could think of right now. Number 1, we have an egg. Right after we have the magid. Right after we have the sandwich. Before we have the meal, we bring out an egg. And also, I'm asking tonight, on the Seder night. Where else tonight on Leil HaSeder do we have a remembrance for the Beit HaMikdash? The sandwich. What do we say before we eat the korech? Zecher LaMikdash. We remember the Mikdash kehilel hazaken, right? Okay, so this is one of the themes of Leil HaSeder, okay? Zecher LaMikdash, and that's why we're going to wash our hands. And I think that this connects beautifully to the first paragraph of the Magid. So for those of you that are taking notes, for those of you that want to come to the Leil HaSeder with something to say, for those of you that have an uncle who is super religious and he makes everybody share a Dvar Torah. So this is maybe one that you would want to write down, one that you would want to share. It's a beautiful idea. I'm not sure if this is what you would want to share, but if it is, so maybe pull out your pen and paper. And here is a beautiful idea on the first paragraph. Remember, the Magid is very beautiful and is very long, and there's a lot of fantastic ideas. I mean, unfortunately, we only have a few days to talk about the Haggadah. You could spend a year on the Haggadah. But at least we should start from the beginning of the Magid with the opening paragraph. Let's read the opening paragraph. And as I read it, I want you to listen and try to ask your own questions on this opening paragraph. It's only 3 sentences. Okay? Everyone ready? 3 sentences. Opening paragraph. What's the opening words of the Haggadah, of the Magid? Here it is. Lahma Anya. And we raise the plate, or we point to the plate, and we point to the matzah and we say, Lahma Anya. This is the bread of affliction. This is the poor man's bread. Di achalu abhatana be'ar'ad Mizrahi. This is the poor man's bread that our forefathers ate in Mitzrayim, in Egypt. Beautiful. So this is opening sentence. We start off and we say, this is the bread that we ate as slaves. Good. Sentence number 2. Kol dichfin yetei veyechol. Whoever's hungry, come and eat. Kol ditzrich yetei veyifsach. Whoever needs, come and eat Pesach. Okay? That's sentence number 2. Then, sentence number 3. Hashata hacha, now we are here. Leshana haba'a be'ar'ad Israel. Next year we should be in Israel. Hashata avdeh, now we are servants, now we're slaves. Next year we should be in Israel, free men. These are the 3 sentences. Question number 1. What in the world do these 3 sentences have to do with each other? There seems to be no rhyme and reason. There's no flow over here. It's just like 3 nice sentences. You know, like sometimes they ask someone to say like a Dvar Torah or something, and he gets up and he just, for 15 minutes, he's sharing 18 different Dvar Torahs that have nothing to do with each other because he needs to fill up 15 minutes, right? You know what I'm saying? Like we're talking about, right? Sometimes when they do that. Just like there's no flow. What's going on? You start off with a nice sentence about this is the poor man's bread. Then you jump to Hachnasat Orchim. Hey, by the way, anyone hungry, come and eat. Then you jump, we should be in Israel next year. What is the connection? Good? You writing down? Question number 1. Okay. Question number 2. Why are we saying it in Aramaic? What language is this? This paragraph is Aramaic. It's the only paragraph in the whole Haggadah that's Aramaic. The next sentence begins in Hebrew. Ma nishtana halayla. The very next words are Hebrew, and it stays like that till the end. It's Hebrew, 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 Hebrew. But all of a sudden, we start off with Aramaic. There are answers to this that's commonly given. One answer is that in the times that the Haggadah was written, the people spoke Aramaic. And so that's why this paragraph is written in Aramaic, because that was the common tongue. Which is maybe an acceptable answer. The only problem is that if that's the case, maybe we should change the language today from Aramaic to English. I think today most of us speak English, no? So maybe we should change it, and we should read it instead in English. Nothing wrong, read it in English. But no, we still read it in Hebrew. Question number 2, why do we read it in Aramaic? Okay? Why are we reading it in Aramaic? Okay. Question number 3. Why the tune sounds a little bit sad? You notice it? Right? You feel like a sadness. Right? Lahma Anya, diachalu abatana be'ara. And by the way, it's not the same tune as the rest of the Haggadah. Right? The rest of the Haggadah is a different tune. But at least the way we say it, there's a certain mood that's being created. It's a little bit somber. Question number 3, why? Okay? Question number 4. Okay, so let's recap. Number 1, what's the flow? Number 2, why Aramaic? Number 3, why is it sad? Number 4, what kind of business is this? That you're inviting somebody to your seder here, now, after you already started the seder? What kind of Hachnasat Orchim is this? Just imagine the guy is sitting there. He already started Kiddush. He already started washing. He's already halfway in. By the way, whoever needs, come on in. Come and join us for Seder. And by the way, he's saying it with the door closed. Who's going to hear you? This is not the right time to invite people. You want to invite someone to shul for you to Seder? Do it in shul. After Arbit, on Lil Pessah, stand by the door. Anyone that needs, please come. Over there, you should maybe say this paragraph. Call the tzrich, yeteve yifsach. Whoever needs, come and have Pesach. Have an extra plate. No, you do it with the door closed. I hardly call this chesed. It's not real chesed. When you're inviting, come on, who are you kidding? Imagine the guy knocks on your door as you say it. The guy knocks on your door. Hi, how can I help you? Oh no, sorry. I heard you say, kol dechfin yeteve yichul. So here I am joining you for your seder. I mean, that's what you just did. You invited whoever wanted. Here I am. I'm here to join you. Right? No one really is inviting anybody at this point. It's too late. Whoever has their seder already made their plans. You should invite from now, from Sunday. Okay? That's question number 4. So these questions and other questions that you may have had, Rabbi Bernstein gives a beautiful answer over here from the Sefer called Ma'aseh Hashem. And he says a very fantastic concept. On the one hand, tonight we are Bnei Horin, we are free. And we're celebrating freedom. We're sitting here, we're leaning, we're like kings. We're having 4 cups of wine corresponding to the 4 expressions of redemption. Vehotzeti, vehitzalti, vega'alti, velakachti. The cousins are running around, everybody's giving out gifts, and we're happy and we're smiling. And it's a very beautiful mood that we have over here on Leil HaSeder. Right? Freedom. We're celebrating freedom. This is it. This is our July 4th. This is our Day of Independence. This is Yom HaAtzmaut for the Jewish people. This is the day that we were freed, and we're celebrating freedom, and we're tapping into that freedom. And by the way, Rabbi Dessler says, and others say, a very important message. This is something that you must take with you. Okay? Judaism is not a commemorative religion. What that means is that on Leil HaSeder, you're not just remembering what happened 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago. We don't commemorate. In our religion, we actually relive what happened. What that means is that on July 4th every year, you make a barbecue, you go to the beach, and you remember what happened 250 years ago. That's not our religion. Our religion is not remembering what happened. In our holidays, we are able to re-tap into the very same energy that existed many, many, many thousands of years ago on this very day. What that means is that when Hashem created the world, different days of the year, He injected extra dosage of certain potential. As an example, on the 10th of Tishrei, when God created the world, on creation, God said, okay, forever and ever and ever, on this day called the 10th of Tishrei, there's going to be an energy of forgiveness. And if you could tap into it on this day, you could get forgiven any day. But the dosage on this day is much, much greater. Understand? On the 1st of Tishrei, there's a concept of a new beginning, of starting fresh. You could always start fresh, every day. But on this day, there's going to be a higher percentage, higher value. On the 15th of Nisan, Hashem injected an energy called freedom. And you can become free any day of the year. But when we arrive at this date, which is going to come up Friday night, we're going to be able to access this freedom like no other day of the year. All of the things throughout the year that we feel are pulling us down, all of the things that are tying us, all of the things that we feel slaved and enslaved to, we're able to break free tonight on Leil HaSeder. The energy that God put into Leil HaSeder was there from the first day of creation. By the way, we often think that we celebrate Pessah on the 15th because that's when we left. We left on the 15th, so that forever became the day of freedom. But according to what we're saying, it's not true. It's the exact opposite. The day of the 15th was the day of freedom, so therefore the Jews had to leave on that day. You understand? It's not that the Jews left on that day. So that's, again, going back to Independence Day, it happens to be that on July 4th we gained independence, so now we mark that date. But in Judaism, it's the opposite. That date was already from the beginning of time a day of freedom. And that's why God took us out on that day. That's what it means when our rabbis tell us that Abraham celebrated Pessah. How could Abraham celebrate Pessah? It didn't happen yet. It means that Abraham already knew and he had access to the koach, to the energy of every date throughout the year. He knew what each day was meant to be through his prophecy. He was able to tap into the 15th. He didn't need Pesach to happen. Pesach was just a result. The 15th from the beginning of time, already from Adam HaRishon, was a powerful day. Abraham tapped into that day. And every year we tap into that day. We have to think of time not as a straight line, but as a circle. And different stations, just like a train, when the train leaves the station doesn't go anywhere. The station stays where it is. The train left. When we go on from day to day to day, the energy is always there. We just have to wait till we get back to that day so that we can plug in again, so that we can re-tap into those reservoirs. This is a very, by the way, very important way of understanding our Hagim. The Orah Hayim writes something similar to this. When the Jewish people were in the desert and Bil'am cursed us, remember Bil'am, he tried cursing us? The Pasuk says, El Motzi'am Mizrahi. Bil'am says about the Jews, God is taking them out of Egypt. Ask the Orah Hayim, why is that written in present? He's taking us out. He's not taking us out. He took us out. Why is it written in present tense? It should have said, Hotzi'am, says the Orah Hayim. This is what we're talking about. Because every year on Pesach, God takes us out. It wasn't a one-time thing. We all have a personal Mitzrayim that we're able to leave from every year on this day. Present tense. Bechol dor vador. In every generation, Hayav Adam lerot et atzmo ki ilu hu yatsa mitzrayim. You are able to leave today. We are able to leave. We are leaving on this year, on Pessah, we're going to be able to tap into that energy. It's not remembering an energy that existed. The energy is going to be available for us for the taking. This same exact Shefa and Kedusha. Could you imagine? Imagine I said to you, for $1,000, I will let you go back and re-experience the feeling that the Jewish people had 3,000 years ago. For $1,000, okay, you can Venmo me. I'll send you my info. $1,000, I can take you back, and you could really feel, you could see the light, the Kedusha of Yetziat Mizrahi that was there. Right? What would you say? Who wouldn't pay? The truth is, we don't have to pay. It's going to be here. It's going to be here on Friday night. Because every year on the dates, certain dates of the year, we re-experience what they experienced. So this is Leila Seder. It's an awesome night, the night of freedom. But the story is incomplete. Because it's true. It's true that we have freedom. But if we stop there, I think we are missing the other half. At the end of the day, Rabotai, we have to admit, we are not free. At the end of the day, although we were redeemed, we are still in Galut. We're still suffering. We look around what's happening to our brothers and sisters in Ukraine. We look at all the suffering of the Jews right now in Israel, so many attacks one after the other. Who could say that we're free? This is not the freedom that we want. At the end of the day, we must remember that our redemption is still incomplete. Just like a Hatan, by the way. A Hatan, if you ever were at the wedding, you would see right before they'd start dancing, what does he do at the end? He breaks the glass. Now, today people don't know what that means. Today people think that breaking of the glass is a cue to scream Mazel Tov, right? And the band start playing. But that's not what the breaking of the glass was meant to be. The breaking of the glass was supposed to be a moment of reflection, of introspection, of sadness. Because at the end of the day, Imlo a'aleh et Yerushalayim al rosh simchati. On the happiest day of our lives, we still must remember Mizrahi. We still have to remember that we are not in Yerushalayim. Our redemption is not full. We're not there. We are still waiting for the full Geula. And it's really, we're supposed to have these mixed feelings. This is what Lahma is trying to accomplish. Lahma Anya, the first paragraph of the Haggadah, is similar to the breaking of the glass of a wedding. Whatever the breaking of a glass of a wedding is meant to accomplish, that's what Lahma Anya is meant to accomplish. And now let us go back and we can answer our questions one by one. Lahma Anya, we start off, first of all, in Aramaic. You know why Aramaic? Aramaic is a trigger language. Whenever we speak Aramaic, automatically our brains are supposed to go to Bavel. Bavel that's the language of Iran. Back then it was Aramaic. Why do we want to go back to Bavel? Because that was the place that our exile began. When the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, where were we all taken as Jews? When the first temple was destroyed, we were taken to Iran. To Iraq, excuse me, I said Iran before. We were taken to Iraq. We were taken to Bavel, right? We were taken into Galut. This is where our Galut started, and we started learning Aramaic from the Iraqis. And therefore we start the Haggadah with the language of Iraq, which is the language of Galut. We remind ourselves we are still in Galut. And we say, this is a poor man's bread. Yes, this bread is also a rich man's bread. This bread also symbolizes our freedom. This bread also symbolizes the night that we left. It's also the matzah that we made as we were leaving and we ate because we didn't have time to wait for it to rise. So this matzah is also very powerful in a freedom sense. But it is also connotes the fact that we were slaves. And just like when we were in Mizrahi, we ate this bread as a slave, we are eating this matzah now as a slave. We are not fully free yet. We have to remember that. And what do we do to remind ourselves of this? Not only do we say the Lahma in Aramaic, but then we say, Kol detzrich yeteh veyechol. Kol dechfin yeteh veyechol. Whoever's hungry, come on and eat. What significance does that have? Why are we inviting a guy now at the Seder? And I think, again, we're not saying this in order to really invite people. This is not an invitation. We're saying this to remind ourselves that we're still in Galut. And here's why. You know, when we had a Beit HaMikdash, when we had the Korban Pesach, one of the interesting halachot about Korban Pesach, I don't know if you knew this halakha, Bezat Hashem, we should know this halakha very soon. But the Korban Pesach, one of the laws is that Eno ne'echal ela limnuyav. That means that if you want to eat it, then you have to have already been registered with this animal in the daytime when they were slaughtering it. So that means Friday night is Pesach. Friday afternoon, we come to the Kohen, we come to the Beit HaMikdash with a sheep, with our Korban. We're going to go to the Kohen and say, okay, Mr. Cohen, I need you to slaughter this animal. He's going to say, okay, who's registered on this animal? We're going to pull out our iPhones or our papers and we're going to say, okay, this one, my cousin, my aunt, my sister, my brother, her kids, my wife, my in-laws. And we're going to show them all these people are going to eat with us Korban Pesach. Okay, no problem. And he's going to slaughter the animal. A minute later, you get a phone call. It's from your best friend, Abe. Abe, what's going on? Hey, Ariel, let me ask you. Could I join you tonight for the Seder? Oh, Abe, I wish you called me a minute earlier. It's too late. You weren't registered on my animal. Okay, that's a halakha. You cannot eat anymore from that korban if you weren't registered when we were slaughtering it. This is what we're saying in sentence number 2. We are saying, unfortunately today, we don't have a korban pesach. Now, call the tzrich yeteve yifsach. Whoever wants, come on in. Whoever's hungry, come join us. We're saying it in a sad way. We're saying it in, unfortunately, we can invite whoever we want because we don't have the real Pesach anymore. In the times of the Beit HaMikdash, you wouldn't be allowed to do this. You wouldn't be allowed to just invite anyone now on Leil HaSeder. It's too late. And now we're saying in a negative way, in a sad way, we can invite whoever we want, unfortunately, because we don't have the Korban Pesach. It's again another way of reminding ourselves that our redemption, there is still pain in the world around us. As happy as we are on Leil HaSeder, we also have to have notes of sadness that are mixed in. And that's why we end with the last sentence. Hashata hacha. Now we are here. L'shana haba'a be'ar'a de Israel. Next year we should be in Eretz Israel. So I think this is really a beautiful flow. It really explains the entire Haggadah, all of the Magid. I think something that we should think about. Sometimes we forget that we're in Galut. We forget that we're in exile. We forget that we're still waiting for a Mashiach. We look around, we're living well. We look around, we have beautiful homes. We're having Seder on a beach maybe somewhere. We're having Seder in this huge hotel or in a huge house or in a very comfortable setting. And we forget that this is not the goal. This is not the end game. This is not where we are supposed to be. People are still suffering. There are people that still have pain. We need Mashiach. People still are children. There's terrorism. There's hatred. There's anti-Semitism. We need the Geula. And this is the tone that we set right in the beginning. Although, yes, we're happy. A mission accomplished. Ish. Not fully. We're kind of free, but we still have a ways to go. We should be zocheh, all of us, that like we say, Hashata hacha l'shana haba'a be'ar'a de Israel. We should be zocheh next year to be able to sit with our friends and family. This year, B'ezrat Hashem, we still have a few days left. We should be zocheh to all change our Pesach plans. Change our plans. We're not going to the islands. We're not going to all of these different destinations. We're going one way. We're going to Israel. We're going to have Seder in Israel. We're going to have Korban Pesach in Israel. We're going to register whoever we need to register ahead of time because the Korban Pesach is here. And we're going to make our arrangements, B'ezrat Hashem. We should be zocheh very soon to these days where we could see the end of suffering, the end of pain, the end of tragedy. Amen. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.